Alright, in this video tutorial we're going to talk about the environment of RStudio, and we will learn some basic mathematical operation and command and also some tips in RStudio. So the environment of RStudio, if you open up RStudio from a start menu, academic software, and then if you scroll down you can find RStudio. So here is the environment of RStudio that you are familiar with that. RStudio is divided into 4 main windows. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The bottom left window is called console. Okay, and in the console you can run your command, but in only one line at a time. It's simple and quick. For example, you can type 2 plus 4, and then in your keyboard if you hit the enter key, R will return the value of 6 as the result of this expression. You can write your codes here, but it can be sometimes difficult to edit or modify or make some changes to your code. So let's move on to the next window. The top left window is called RScript editor, which allows you to write multiple lines of code and then execute and run the entire codes. And RScript editor allows codes to be reproducible, which means that people can see what you have done step by step and they can generate the same result that you already have generated. So in the next few labs we will write the entire our codes in the editor because of its great ability to reproduce the codes. And but one thing that you should notice is that you can always switch between the RScript editor and console using the Ctrl+1 in your keyboard and Ctrl+2. Okay, so you can switch between these two. That's the shortcut key between these two windows. So the next window is in the top right window is called workspace, and that's mainly contains the list of objects that are currently in your memory. So you don't have any object here, but as we move forward you will see that the objects will be shown in the environment in the workspace. And also it has a history tab, and in the history tab it shows you the previous commands. Okay, and then you can select them. For example, you can select this one, and if you double click on them it will be shown here in the console. Okay, so for you maybe you don't have any commands in the history, so maybe you don't have anything here, but you can always remove the entire history. So that's the history tab. Finally, the bottom right window, which shows you, first of all, it shows you the plots. So while we work with the R, we can generate some fancy plots. For example, histogram, bar plot, box plot. The plots will be shown here. Okay, and then you can export them as image and as PDF, and then use it for your research or for your topic, any topic that you are working. And another tab here in this window is package. So there are so many packages. As I said, R has more than 10,000 packages, and you can, if there is no packages, you can search them, the name of the package, and then you can install the package and use them for your purpose. And another important tab here is help tab, and you can, for example, if you want to know anything about any command in R, okay, so you can just type it here. I don't know, for example, what is mean command is doing in the R programming language. So you can see that how we can use mean command in R. So it's a very full description of the arithmetic mean here. Another thing is that you can modify the size of these windows. Okay, so you can easily change the size of the window, and also you can change the location. Maybe you can we want to put the console window here, or you want to put the RScript editor here. So that's a matter of preference. In this lab, we want to interact with R using console window, this window. But as we move forward, and as we gain some more experience working with R Studio, we will write our codes in the editor window, in this window. First of all, let's do some basic mathematical operations in the console. So I can, for example, type 12 plus 11, okay, so for the addition, and R will return the value of 23. You can do the subtraction, for example 6 minus 2, so R will return the value of 4. Multiplication, 7 times 5, 35, or division, 7 divided by 3, 2.3. So these values are whole numbers, or also called integer values. So notice the values in RStudio are not, the numbers are not always the whole numbers. For example, we can work with the double numbers, okay, or float numbers. For example, we can type negative 0.2 times 4.6, okay. So that's a multiplication, not for the whole numbers. And you can also do the addition, subtraction, division for the non-integer numbers. So let's see the result of this expression. 2 plus 6 times 3. What do you think about the result of this expression? So if I hit the enter key in my keyboard, the result of R will return the value of 20 as the result. This is because now multiplication has higher priority compared to the addition, okay. So what happens in R is that first R computes the multiplication 6 times 3, which is 18, and then adds the result to 2. So to change the order, we should use parentheses. For example, if I want to add 2 and 6 and then multiply it by 3, I have to use parentheses. So 2 plus 6 times 3. So, and now the result will be different, okay, because parentheses has higher priority compared to the multiplication, which means that first R calculates what's within the parentheses and then multiply it by the value outside of the parentheses. Another operator is raised to a power. For example, 3 raised to a power of 2 equals to 9, which equals to 3 times 3, okay, or 6 raised to power of 3, which is 216, which is again equals to 6 times 6 times 6. Okay, so now let's move on to talk about an important operation in R, which is called assign operator. So let's press enter a couple of times. So let's say you have this expression 2 plus 3, which is 5, right? What we're gonna do is that we're gonna store the result in an object like x, okay. So what we can do is so 2 plus 3, and then I use the equal sign and then save it in the value of x. So this means that first of all do the addition and then save it in the results, save the result in an object with the name of x, okay. So when you hit enter, what will happen is that if you go to the environment now, you can see that an object has been saved in the environment, okay. And if you here just type x and then hit enter, so x is now equals to 5, okay. So another operator that is equals to equal sign is left arrow sign, okay, for example, which is like this. So 2 plus 3, I want to store it in an object with the name of x. Okay, so these two operator, equal sign or left arrow, both of them are equal, so they are used interchangeably. But it's a matter of preference. I prefer to use equal sign because it's simpler to, and it's kind of more, it's faster compared to the arrow sign. So I use the equal sign for the assignment. So this means that just save the result or store the result in this object. Okay, and when you store it, it will be saved in the environment. So after you have a object, you can work with this object. Okay, for example, you can square the object or raise it to the power of 2. Okay, x raised to the power of 2, which is 5 times 5. Or let's store this in an object called y. So we have x raised to the power of 2 equals to, and then I store it in an object y. Okay, so now y is equals to 25. And now I can make some more complex mathematical operation using x and y. For example, I can add x and y and then store it in the object with the name of z. Okay, you can see that it's now 30. Okay, and also if you type z here, r returns the value of 30. So instead of working with numbers, we work with the object. Okay, so you may want to remove an object from workspace here. For example, I want to remove the object y from the workspace. We use the commands rm, maybe it stands for remove, and then in the parentheses I have to write the name of the object that I want to remove. Okay, that I want that to be removed. So for example, I want to remove the object y. So when I hit enter, I can see that object y removed from the workspace. Okay, and if I want to know more about rm, I can here type rm in the help tab in this window. If I type rm, so remove object from specified environments. Okay, and it gives you full description how you can use it and with some examples. Okay, so that's the removing an object from the workspace. And now if I type y, because I removed it, right, and then hit enter, R will gives us an error that object y not found. Okay, and you may want to know what objects are stored in workspace. This is very useful when you have so many objects in the workspace. So for this purpose, you use ls command. ls gives you a list of the objects that are in the workspace, and if you hit the enter key, you will see that the object x and z are saved in the workspace. When we use assign operator, for example, any assign operator, for example, xy, and another name of the object, equals to x times z. Okay, so the result of the x times z will be stored in an object, and so the name can be anything, but the name cannot be started with the number. Okay, for example, I cannot I cannot have a object with 1x, okay, which is for example x minus z. So unexpected symbol in 1x. So this is because the error is because we cannot start the name of the object with a number. Okay, but if I type, for example, x1 instead of 1x, which means that the difference between x and z should be stored in another variable, which is x1. Okay, and I think it's negative 25. And now if I type x1 here, so the value is negative 25, and also here x1 is negative 25, but 1x cannot be identified by R. If the command is incomplete, for example, I want to remove variable x1, okay, and I remove the close parentheses, so I just type x1. So this command is kind of incomplete, right? So when I hit the enter, what happens? R will display a plus sign, right? And if I press enter several times, nothing will happen, which means that R is waiting for you to type the rest of your command, okay? And if I close the command, and then if I close the parentheses, and now if I hit the enter, I can remove x1 from the workspace. So now it's time to practice some common mathematical functions that are widely used in R. So the first one is ABS, or absolute value. So ABS, you can also search here to know more about the command ABS. It returns the absolute value. Okay. For example, if I want to know the absolute value of the negative 9, which is positive 9, right? And then hit enter, it returns us the value of the positive 9. Again, it can be for non-integer values. For example, absolute value of the negative 0.2, which is 0.2, right? And the next mathematical function is sqrt, which returns the square root of a number. For example, a square root of 9, which is 3, right? And here also you can type sqrt. Okay, so sqrt, and then how you can use it, and then there are several examples for it. So sqrt and absolute value are two important mathematical functions that we will use it a lot. And another important function is log, which this command returns a natural log for a positive value. For example, natural log of 10, which is 2.3, right? And the reverse, which is exponential command, exp. So exp, for example, let me copy this value, and then I want to measure the exponential value of this value, which is almost the same, almost 10, right? And exp is an anti-natural log function. So these are the most important and most common mathematical operations that are widely used in R. The next thing is that R is case sensitive. For example, if I type x, R will return the value of 5, right? But if I type uppercase of x and then hit enter, object not found, okay, because we don't have the uppercase x, we only have the lowercase x, right? And this is because R is case sensitive. And the objects are not only numbers, they can also be characters. For example, you can store your name in an object, and but you should keep in mind that for the characters you have to use quotes. It can be a single quote or it can be a double quote. For example, your name, or my name, Abe. So I use a double quote, and then I can store it again, use the assign operator. You can store it in any object, for example, name. Okay, so the value of the Abe will be saved in the object name. And if I hit enter, I can see that in the environment I have the object Abe, which is the type is character, has been saved in the environment. Or if I here type name, I can see that it will return the value of Abe. Or again, you can use the single quotation instead of the double quotation. Then I type it, my name, and then I save it in an object such as name. Okay, you can see that again it's double quote because there are no difference between single quote and double quote. Another useful feature of R is commenting. That we will use hash sign for commenting. This sign. Okay, so when R sees this hashtag sign, R will skip this comment. Okay, because the hashtag is only for you, for people who read your code, to make the codes more clear. Okay, for people. So it's not for R. And for example, I can make a comment that this code measures the code measures BMI. Okay, and then I hit enter. So this is only for just for myself or for people who are reading this code. And we will use this code, not this code, we will use a hashtag sign a lot in the R script. Okay, so for example, if I copy this, before I want to start so many number of line of code, I, for example, provide this description. It's kind of like description to make it clear that, so what is this code about? Okay, so that's the commenting, and it's very useful to make your codes more clear for other people and also for yourself. In the future, you want to see your codes and you want to know what you have already done. Okay, and also, as you know, the type of data or the class of data is very important. For example, you can't do mathematical operations on character class. Okay, if you want to check the class of data, you can use the class command. Okay, class. So I want to check the class of this variable x. Okay, I just put the the object x in the command class, and if I hit enter, I can see that the x is numeric object. Okay, and also if I want to see for this object, if I want to see the class of this object, I type class, and then here I type the name of the object, which is name, and it's character object. Okay, so you can do mathematical operations on this character. So it's not always easy. For example, you can have a variable with the name of xy, and you type your name here. Okay, Lex, and you may think that it's a numeric variable. So for example, xy, you want to add it to x, but you can see that you can't do this, right? Because this one is non-numeric variable. You can't add it with the numeric variable. So sometimes you need to check the type of data or the class of data. You can use the class command. So let's say I create an object Sarah, and I store it again in this object. Okay, in the name object, and then I hit enter. You can see that in the hit enter. You can see that in the workspace the name changed to Sarah. Okay, so it's not Abe anymore. This is because R overrides the values, okay, and only keeps the latest values for an object. For example, for now, if I type name, it will return the value of Sarah. So x here is 5, right? So I assign the value of 10 to the x object, and if I hit enter, so x is not 5 anymore, okay, because R overrides the values. And now if you want to check, you can see that x is 10. The next important tip is up arrow key on your keyboard. If you push up arrow key on your keyboard, you can retrieve the previous comments in order without typing them. Okay, so I push the up arrow key once, so we can see that what I have already typed, okay, in order. And if you push down arrow key, it brings us to the newer comments. Okay, it's reverse of the up arrow key. And this is kind of sometimes is very important. Instead of typing the entire line of code, for example, like I want to change this is not a BMI, so I can, for example, change this to area of a circle. Okay, so instead of typing the entire line of code, I can use the up arrow key or down arrow key and then change the code a little bit. Okay, so it's very important tip that you have to use it, that we will use it a lot in the future labs.